Hello and welcome straight from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. A passenger train has been hijacked in Pakistan with over 450 people on board in the rest of Balochistan province. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi gets a memorable reception in Mauritius, meets the island nation's President Dharampir Gokul. And Asian stock markets tank amid mounting fears of a serious downturn in the world's largest economy on the back of US President Trump's tariff war. First up, an unfolding story in Pakistan. The Jafar Express en route from Quetta to Peshawar has been reportedly hijacked in the restive province of Balochistan. According to Mohammad Kashif, a senior railway government official in Quetta, over 450 passengers on board are being held hostage. Reports also suggest intense firing on the Jafar Express train. Let's get you on this with my colleague Jessica Taneja joining us from the newsroom. Jessica, what more can you tell us about what's happening in Balochistan here?
That's correct. A tense moment right now that we're witnessing out of the region, Gautam. The report suggesting right now that a train has been halted right before a tunnel, which is surrounded by mountainous region. Perhaps also the local authorities nearby in Sibi seem to indicate that this is a moment where they are not being able to contact or even reach with, make contact with the teams there in terms of rescue efforts. All emergency services have been put in place so far. What we're given to understand is that 450 passengers were on board that train. Remember, this train was just a short while ago taking off from Quetta to Peshawar, and this is not the first time that this entire route has witnessed an incident like this. You'd recall in November last year, Gautam, 22 people had died and almost 64 people were injured when a suicide blast took off at the Quetta railway station. So we've seen a number of reports in the recent past as well, but this one seems to indicate that uncertainties prevail at this point, with local authorities trying to reach the spot in terms of at least sending ambulances. If you look at other details that have emerged so far, it is also being reported that there has been firing that has taken place as well, but none of it confirmed so far by officials. So we'll have to wait for those details to come out.
Right. Why has this happened? Was the train a bit of a sitting duck?
Well, as per reports, it was stopped at pillar number 9 and right before a tunnel, which is of course a rocky terrain and surrounded by mountainous region. So certainly an intent there by the responsible, militants responsible for this attack. So far, I'll be cautious enough to say that we don't know which group has been identified or has taken responsibility in a sense of this incident. But from the reports emerging right now, uncertainty prevails, and we'll have to wait for more details coming out of authorities either from Sibi or Quetta to give us details on the fact that what is involved in the process. So far what we know is that the train is currently been halted there, and of course hostages still remain.
Well, there are reports that the Balochistan Liberation Army has taken responsibility for this attack, but we don't know why it's been carried out, and we don't know why a train is being held hostage. What do they want? Because in the past there has, as you mentioned, the Quetta railway station attack as well, but it was just a bomb blast. People died there tragically, but people were not being held hostage. This is clearly different.
It indeed is, and looking at the number of people who are on board, over 450 people, and also reports of firing suggesting that things might not be going down very well there at this point, especially when the authorities are unable to make any contact with those 9 coaches that seem to have been stuck right before a tunnel surrounded by mountains, making it even more difficult either for details to emerge, but few new agencies have been saying and reporting that some militant groups have taken responsibility, but those reports, of course, till now remain unconfirmed as yet.
Any information as to the presence of any sort of security on board the train, considering that there have been attacks of this nature in the past, and this is a particularly restive area with a long-standing separatist as well as armed movement for becoming separate from Pakistan?
You'll recall, Gautam, in October last year, it had been more than 1.5 months since the train services were halted, and after much deliberation were they then started in November, and again an incident like this was witnessed. So, of course, apart from the uncertainties that prevail, the tensions in the region continue to simmer, and one will have to only wait and see as to what this particular recent incident is going to lead to, or what are the demands, if in the way it is turning out to be right now, if the people are being held hostage. Of course, more details will emerge as to what those potential attackers or militants really want out of this.
Clearly, quite a few chapters still to unfold as far as this latest incident is concerned, related to the kind of history that Pakistan has had with violence as well as separatism, armed separatism. Thanks a lot for the moment, Jessica Taneja. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is in Mauritius on a 2-day state visit, has called on President of the Republic of Mauritius, Dharambir Gokul. The Prime Minister gifted holy Sangam water from the Mahakumbh in a brass and copper pot to the Mauritian President, and also gifted makhana, a superfood from Bihar, to him. Box to the Mauritian President's better half. The Banarsi sari, originating from Varanasi, is a symbol of luxury and cultural heritage, known for its fine silk, intricate brocades and opulent zari work. This exquisite sari comes in a royal blue shade adorned with silver zari motifs, a broad zari border and a richly detailed pallu, making it ideal for weddings, festivals and grand celebrations. Complementing the sari is a sadeli box from Gujarat featuring intricate inlay work designed to store precious saris, jewellery or keepsakes. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi visited Sir Sivusagar Ram Ghulam Botanical Garden, where he paid homage to Sir Sivusagar Ram Ghulam and Sir Anirudh Jagnaud, 2 great leaders who made indelible contributions to Mauritius's progress. Prime Minister Modi also planted a bale sapling in the garden under Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, that is an initiative to plant for the mother. Prior to this, Prime Minister Modi had undertaken a similar initiative during his visit to Guyana as well. Due to the unceasing efforts of Prime Minister Modi, the initiative has resulted in the planting of more than 1 billion trees in India, with a total of over 27,500 trees already planted in around 136 countries across the globe. And the day also saw Prime Minister Modi visiting the Ayurveda garden in the State House, established in collaboration with the Government of India. Prime Minister Modi noted that Mauritius is an important partner for India in advancing the benefits of traditional medicine, including Ayurveda. And upon his arrival in Mauritius' capital, Port Louis, earlier in the morning, Prime Minister Modi received a grand and warm welcome. In a special gesture, Mauritius Prime Minister Naveen Ram Ghulam welcomed his Indian counterpart with a warm hug. There were a total of 200 dignitaries present to welcome Prime Minister Modi at this early hour, including MPs, MLAs, diplomatic corps and religious leaders. The PM was also accorded with a ceremonial reception at the airport. He is set to attend the National Day celebrations of Mauritius as its chief guest on Wednesday. And the PM also got a rousing welcome upon his arrival by members of the Indian community. Chants of Modi Modi echoed all around as Prime Minister Modi also interacted with them, as has become customary from him wherever he goes around the world, because the Indian diaspora is one of the most widespread and largest diasporas in the world. In Mauritius itself, 70% of the island nation's population is of Indian origin. Now, as Prime Minister Modi commenced his first day in Mauritius, India's Ministry of External Affairs shared an overview of his meetings and programs for the day.
Namaste. The Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has arrived in Mauritius on his historic state visit. At the airport, on arrival, he was warmly received in a special gesture by Prime Minister of Mauritius, His Excellency Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam. There were several other dignitaries to welcome him at the airport. There was ceremonial welcome, and at the hotel we had the Indian community members giving him a rousing welcome in Mauritius. Around evening, he meets or addresses the Indian community diaspora here in Mauritius along with the Prime Minister of Mauritius. And in the evening, he has a meeting with the Prime Minister, who will also be hosting a banquet in his honor. Tomorrow is a big day, National Day of Mauritius. Prime Minister will be participating as a chief guest in the national celebrations of their Independence Day.
And a Bihari tradition was also part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's reception in Mauritius. The PM was welcomed by a traditional Geet Gavai performance. Geet Gavai is a traditional Bhojpuri musical ensemble that embodies the rich cultural heritage brought to Mauritius by women from the Bhojpuri belt of India. In recognition of its cultural significance, Geet Gavai was inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity in December 2016. Ganga Talao, also known as Grand Basin, is revered as Mauritius' most significant Hindu pilgrimage site, symbolizing the Ganges River of India. The holy waters of Ganga Talao were infused with the water from the Ganges River in 1972. The lake is surrounded by temples dedicated to Lord Shiv, Lord Ganesh and Lord Hanuman. The Shiv temple at the Ganga Talao is believed to be from the 13th Jyotirling, according to local legend, and it was established in 1897 by Pandit Jhumon Giri. During the visit of India's President Draupadi Murmu to Mauritius last year, it was announced that the Government of India will support the redevelopment of the Ganga Talao complex into a religious, cultural and tourist hub. DD India's Akshay Dongre has spoken with the trustee and caretaker of the sacred lake in Mauritius on the significance of the Ganga Talao.
We are currently at Ganga Talao in Mauritius, one of the most revered spiritual and religious sites. And to talk about how this place is significant, we also have Mr. Satish Dayal with us. Sir, thank you so much for speaking with us. There is a lot of interest as far as the Ganga Talao is concerned. Many people also consider the temple here as the 13th Jyotirlinga as well in India too. As the Prime Minister is arriving here in Mauritius, there is a lot of interest as far as India is concerned and in the world as well that these kind of places exist in Mauritius. So can you tell us about the significance of the Ganga Talao?
The Ganga Talao is a very important place, a spiritually revered place, as you mentioned it. It is a Tirthistan, a place of pilgrimage too. And recently it has been declared as a heritage, a spiritual heritage too. For the Hindu, it is a great symbol.
Right.
It is a great symbol because Ganga Talao is a sacred lake. In spite of being a sacred lake, it's a volcanic lake too. And it is a natural lake.
Right.
For Hindu, it is a great symbolism, this lake itself. The two things at Ganga Talao is very important. One is the lake itself. Secondly, the world 13th Jyotirlinga is here. The 12th Jyotirlinga in India, it is the only one which is outside India. And it is considered as the main temple of the country. And very often we used to experience miraculous happenings. And the temple is very, very famous all throughout the world.
you heard all the significance of this Ganga Talao, and like Mr. Dayal has explained to us in so many words that how special and pious this lake is, and how Mauritius is perhaps the only country outside India that has a Jyotirlinga as well. With camera person Ajit Kumar, Amakshi Dongre, DD India.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Kurdish-led and US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces have signed a deal to integrate into Syria's new state institutions. And Russia's top general has handed out medals to troops in Kursk for purported gains of around 100 square kilometers against Ukraine.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Gautam Roy. Now, the 34th meeting of the Standing Committee of Voluntary Agencies, chaired by Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State for Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, successfully concluded in New Delhi. The meeting served as a key platform for discussions on pensioners' welfare, with participation from pensioners' welfare associations across various states and officials from key ministries and departments. The forum facilitated meaningful deliberations on policy implementation and concerns affecting pensioners, reinforcing the government's commitment to their well-being.
We did away with all the avoidable clauses, and then we went online. Then also started this Bhavishya portal, and I think one of the the greatest success stories has been the life certificate, which is now actually being emulated even by some of the other countries. We have that delegation from Zambia, from Bangladesh. They are coming over to understand what's it all about. I am also glad that we were among the first in the government sector to have introduced face identification technology. Otherwise, earlier it was being used by the criminal world, crime world. So it not for a positive purpose. So we were the first to actually, and it took up as a mass campaign. We have visuals circulated on the social media where the grandchildren are taking fancy and teaching their grandparents how to register their life certificate.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the country today. Now, in a major step towards enhancing India's logistics infrastructure, a memorandum of understanding was signed between National Highways Logistics Management Limited and the Inland Waterways Authority of India on Tuesday. The agreement is aimed at developing a state-of-the-art multimodal logistics park in Varanasi in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. India's Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs has unveiled an upgraded version of the National Youth Parliament Scheme web portal, named it as NYPS 2.0. The new version expands participation beyond students of recognized institutions, making it accessible to all citizens across the country, regardless of economic status, gender, caste, religion or place. The Film and Television Institute of Arunachal Pradesh, has officially welcomed its first batch of students, marking a historic moment for the cinematic future of India's northeastern region. Set against the picturesque backdrop of Arunachal Pradesh, the institute aims to provide world-class platform for aspiring filmmakers to sharpen their skills and contribute to the Indian film industry. India has successfully repatriated 283 Indian nationals from Myanmar, bringing them back on an Indian Air Force aircraft from Thailand on Monday. These individuals were lured to Southeast Asian countries with fake job offers and later forced into cybercrime and other fraudulent activities. The Indian embassies in Myanmar and Thailand worked closely with local authorities to secure their release. US and Ukraine officials began talks in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday to explore a path towards ending the war with Russia. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga attended while President Trump increased pressure on Ukraine to end the conflict. The talks follow a tense exchange 11 days ago between President Zelensky and Trump. Zelensky hopes to restore pragmatic ties with the US after the contentious meeting. He suggested an initial truce with Russia in air and sea operations to align with Trump's goal of a quick resolution. Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, called the meeting very constructive. The US has halted military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine, a shift in policy after Trump accused Zelensky of not being ready for peace. Ukraine hopes its ceasefire offer will convince Washington to resume support. At least 3 people were killed in Moscow's southern suburbs after Ukraine struck the Russian capital with the largest drone attack on Monday. Russia repelled the massive attack, claimed to have shot down 337 drones across the country. As many as 91 drones were intercepted near the capital, while another 126 were downed in the Kursk region near the Ukrainian border. The attack comes just hours before a high-level meeting between US and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia, where discussions are expected to focus, in fact, they have focused on the ongoing conflict. Chief of Russia's General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, visited his troops fighting in Russia's Kursk region. Russian Defense Ministry said on Tuesday that some of their soldiers were awarded medals after Moscow forces pushed Ukrainian troops back in the region. The ministry said Gerasimov had noted Russia's success in destroying Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region and given orders for further action there after hearing reports about the situation on the ground. Russia said on Tuesday that its troops had retaken over 100 square kilometers of territory and 12 settlements in the region. The Kurdish-led and US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces have signed a deal agreeing to integrate into Syria's new state institutions. The deal, which includes a complete cessation of hostilities, has been signed by interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara and the SDF's commander Mazloum Abdi. Under the deal, all civilian and military institutions in northeast Syria will be integrated within the state, which will thus take over control of borders, airports and oil and gas fields. Meanwhile, a surge of violence in the country's Alawite region resulted in gunfighting on the streets of Syria's Latakia. Interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara has said on Monday that such incidents of violence threaten his efforts to unite Syria after 14 years of internal conflict. Greenland is holding parliamentary elections on Tuesday with independence as a key campaign theme after US President Donald Trump said he wants control over the world's biggest island. Polling has begun at 4:30 p.m. IST and will continue till 3:30 a.m. IST the next morning. No exit polls will be conducted and results are expected between 6:30 a.m. IST and 8:30 a.m. IST on Wednesday. Of the 6 parties running, only Nalarak has promised to hold a snap vote on independence, and all parties except for Atasud support secession. The vote comes at a time of heightened international interest in Greenland, particularly after US President Trump expressed a desire to acquire the island, underscoring its strategic and economic significance. World markets stumbled Monday on fears of an impending US recession. Experts are sounding out that the prospect of a recession in the US is lurking. With consumer confidence falling and companies facing increasing trade complexity, investors are turning more nervous and markets sending jitters to signal its apparent unease.
The policies of US President Donald Trump pushing the US economy to the recession quagmire. At least 70 out of 74 economists in US, Canada and Mexico contacted by Newswire services Reuters think so. So do the experts at many financial firms at the Wall Street. And the markets may have just given a stinging reminder. Global markets slumped on Monday with Wall Street logging sharp losses over fears of recession. Uncertainty over Trump's tariffs and threats have left U.S. financial markets in turmoil and consumers unsure of what the year might bring. Nasdaq Composite Index plummeted by 4.0%. The S&P 500 was down 2.7%, both seeing worst day since 2022. The S&P 1500 Super Composite Index, one of the widest measures of the U.S. stock market, has lost nearly $4.9 trillion in value since its record high in mid-February. The Nasdaq was bogged down by retreats in tech stocks, including Google parent Alphabet, Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Nvidia. Tesla, led by Trump's billionaire advisor Elon Musk, closed more than 15% down. While markets were previously bolstered by hopes of tax cuts and lighter regulation, immediate worries over tariffs has clouded every other factor, adding fuel to the raging fires. Heavy job cuts being implemented by Elon Musk and his Doge team. Beijing's retaliatory duties on certain U.S. agricultural goods came into force on Monday after Chinese products were hit with additional 20% U.S. tariffs. Trump, in a Fox News interview aired over the weekend, declined to predict whether his economic policies would cause a recession. A new wave threatens to arrive this week, with steep levies of 25% on steel and aluminium imports due to take effect on Wednesday. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Asian markets also plunged on Tuesday as fears of a trade war triggering a U.S. recession fueled global sell-off. Investors scrambled for safe haven assets like Japanese yen, while stocks across Japan, Taiwan and China tumbled. Japan's Nikkei and Taiwan's benchmark index both slid 3%, reaching their lowest level since September 2024. Even China's strong-performing blue-chip index dropped 0.5%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 0.8%. The sell-off follows Wall Street's sharp decline on Monday, where the S&P 500 saw its biggest one-day drop this year, losing 2.7%, while the Nasdaq suffered a 4% plunge, its worst since 2022. Fears of an economic downturn have already erased $4 trillion from the S&P 500's peak last month, deepening concerns over global financial stability. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.